Tell Staffing and HR, in conjunction with PatriotTV.live, bring you Play Harder Radio, the premier patriotic sports and BS talk show from America's Gulf Coast. Things that matter in the world of sports and things that don't matter to anyone. It's just Faja's opinion. Where the F-bomb is allowed, but frowned upon. This is Play Harder Radio. And now, your host, James Grant.
All right. Welcome back to another week of Play Harder Radio here in the Tell Staffing and HR studios. I'm Jim Grant. Kellie Calaway, are you there?
Hey, Kellie, feel free to join in.
And Tiffany, are you there?
Tiffany
I am.
is.
Hello,
yes.
Happy Thursday.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, happy Thursday. I need a happy evening. Just been one of those days. Tiffany Justice is with us tonight with Kellie and I tonight. She is one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty. You can see them, Tiffany and Tina, and their executive director Marie on a screen behind me right now. But Kellie, you're here now?
I am.
All right. Well, you know what? Tiffany, I told you the other day we'd probably cover some current events or something like that for a few minutes and then get to you, but I think we'll just jump right into it tonight. Tiffany, Kellie, Tiffany, introduce you two.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hey, Kellie. It seems like the issues that Moms for Liberty is dealing with are the current events of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just thought tonight, you know, I think I caught, I don't remember where, it may have been I think it was Tina I saw on the whatever, however I got exposed to you, it was something with Tina. And then found you guys on Twitter, and you messaged me back. Last week you were at a conference up in New Jersey, I think.
I was meeting with New Jersey moms and New York moms, and they are fired up in New Jersey to take their state back.
Awesome.
Moms are fired up across the country, I think. And I think if anybody knows anything about moms, they don't want to mess with the moms.
Yes.
So, Tiffany, tell us a little bit about you. You're from Indian River County here in Florida. And we talked about this on the phone the other day, you guys, that a lot of people in Florida say, at least that I've talked to or whatever, they'll hear about the issues around the country in schools and such and say, well, that's not happening in our schools here in Florida. But in fact, it is or is coming type of thing. And Tiffany, tell us a little bit more how you and Tina got this going, how you guys met, a little bit about your background.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a mom of 4 kids, 1 girl, 3 boys, 17, 14, 12, and 10. In 2014 or so, I was really concerned about my kids' elementary school. It was in a state of disrepair, and so I thought, well, maybe I could do something. I went to the principal, and she really was concerned about being public in the district and telling the public or telling the district, complaining about what was happening at the school, which was rats in the cafeteria, no joke. And so I said, well, we've got to be able to do better than that. What if we get some moms together? She said, yes, that's a good idea. And so we did. And so then in 2016, after we got that school fixed, I ran for school board because I thought, what if every parent at every school was empowered to create that change, right? If we had parents that were actively advocating with the school leadership for their kids, that would be great, right? And so I ran for school board, and then I got to see behind the education curtain. Tina's story was really similar. We didn't even know each other, but we kind of had these parallel experiences in 2 counties, Indian River and Brevard County, where Tina served. And during the time of COVID, we just saw government do things that we never thought government would do. And we saw it in the most direct manner, which was government denying parents their fundamental right, that natural right to direct the upbringing of their children. And really what we thought separately and then together in starting Moms for Liberty was, how are these parents being ignored? How does the government think they know better than parents? And we need to create a way for parents to rise up in their communities so that their voice is the loudest one in the education of their children.
And your chapters are growing, I would say, by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, we started in January of 2021. So I was on school board until the end of November of 2020, took a month, and then launched January of 2021. And now we have over 186 chapters in 36 states, with over 85,000 members across the country of active members that are making the change they want to see in their communities.
85,000?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
How proud are you of that accomplishment? I mean, I know that that's not your thing about it or whatever, but that has to be very fulfilling that you have created this kind of presence and force.
It's just awesome. Like you said, I was up in New Jersey. Tina, Pat Blackburn is the chapter coordinator. We travel around the country. One of the things we do is we help to, empower moms. So our mission statement is to unify, educate, and empower parents to defend and protect their parental rights at all levels of government. And so one of the things we do is help to create leadership, right? What's the avenue to leadership in your own community? And so moms are seeing that the elected officials were not leaders. They did not listen to us when we told them very directly we were concerned about our kids and what was happening with them, school closures, right? We knew it was bad for kids. We knew the masks were bad, and nobody would listen. And so mom said, okay, well, we're going to find our own way to leadership. And so sometimes that looks messy. Sometimes, that is moms coming up against the school district and asking questions that people don't want to answer. Sometimes that looks like Republican executive committees or Democratic executive committees not loving the questions that moms are asking about why their representatives didn't act in the way that they felt they should have. But we're a nonpartisan organization, and we believe and respect that every parent has the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
We will not co-parent with the government, I believe.
Correct.
Amen.
I said that when I was sitting on school board. I remember looking at the superintendent and I was like, we don't co-parent with the government. Do you understand that? Like, I'm a mom of 4 kids. You don't get to make decisions for my children and their medical health.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, so being with the school board and being on the school boards and getting behind the Department of Education curtain, and you have 85,000 parents out there active with you. How did you handle it and take it when Garland, directed the FBI to be on the lookout for you guys and target you?
Well, they did target us. I mean, we've heard from moms across the country that the FBI field offices did in fact call moms. And the question that we pose, is that the correct use of the Patriot Act? And so it's horrible to us. There seems to have been some accountability at the National School Board Association level, that they lost a lot of the state boards, right? That were state board associations that were members. A lot of those members dropped out. So that definitely hurt the National School Board Association. But there's been no accountability for this action. I just see the Attorney General of the United States continuing to push and build bigger government. And the idea that any mother who's speaking on behalf of her children about concerns she has being called a domestic terrorist is really disgusting to me.
It should be disgusting to anybody who, the quote from John Adams that's on your website is, children should be educated and instructed in the principles of freedom. And so anybody that believes that, it should be disgusted by this. It is the exact opposite of freedom. So what is going on now in your world? What do you have any particular mission or anything particular that you're focusing on?
Yep, our chapters are very focused on school board elections right now. It's the only area of elections where we're actually endorsing with our chapters this year. We really wanted our moms to understand. Well, first of all, our moms very much understand the importance of school board elections. What they're also seeing is that when they organize in the counties as chapters, and that's how we're set up by county,
Right.
right? And there are multiple school districts in counties, so every state handles the way their school districts are set up in a different way. And so in Florida, as you know, we have, 67 counties, 67 school districts, plus we have, Florida virtual and such. But in other states, it's not set up like that. And that's, originally when Tina and I started this, we just thought Florida. I'll be honest about that. We thought, let's get this going in Florida. We understand the financing program for students. We've served on school board. We know the changes that need to happen. And then within about 3 weeks, we had a woman, BarbaraAvoud from New York, Long Island, call us and say, can we start a chapter up here if we want to start a chapter? And I remember Tina calling me and I just said, it's not ours. How do you say no? These moms in New York, they're scared about their kids too. And so, that's how we started and spread. But moms are focused on school boards right now. We want to make sure that we get the right people elected to school boards. So our chapters are holding forums. They're endorsing in school board races across the country. And then they've recognized, again, their chapters can work together across the state to have an impact in state legislation because they saw those different levels of power and authority, right? And one of the questions we asked during COVID very directly was, who holds the authority to make this decision? Because what we saw happen, right, was so many bureaucrats, school board members were like, oh, this medical committee or, this bureaucrat makes this decision. And the truth is, it's very unique in America. We have elected representatives, especially at that very local level. And so it was important for those people to hold their authority. A lot of them did not. And so moms are like, we want to elect people who are going to hold their authority and who are going to represent us.
Awesome. Do you have moms from of those 85,000 active? Do you have parents running for school board themselves from your group?
Yeah, so many, and it's been so interesting because in this infancy stage,
that's awesome.
Creating, in this infancy stage of creating this, these chapters across the country, who knew that you'd have a wrench thrown in? Because a lot of the people that are the leaders that rise up to run, to run a chapter are the same people that might consider running for school board.
Right.
But the coolest thing about it is that it's forced us into this real position of growing capacity because we have to identify other leaders. The chapter has growth and it has changes. And so, because people are then getting elected to school board and then you need to find new people to run the chapter because we have a rule. You can't be a chapter chair and be on your school board. It just feels it's a conflict of interest.
Right.
And, but in Kenosha, Wisconsin, for example, there were 3 seats open on their school board. And we, Moms for Liberty members, won 2 of those 3 seats. And then the county supervisor position is now held by our vice chair. And I have a podcast, thank you, it's called the Joyful Warrior Podcast. I have Amanda on. She's the vice chair in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, excuse me. And it's just amazing to have her be the county supervisor. And I asked her why that position. And she said, well, they're the ones who get to decide who runs the health department. Nice. And I said, oh, that's very smart.
That's awesome.
Good for you, Mom. Right? So, when Becky Pringle or Randy Weingarten, or I guess the President of the United States or the Attorney General apparently says that moms are dangerous. Well, if you're looking to maintain the status quo, then I guess moms are dangerous to you because we're done with this woke nonsense.
When you're talking about being educated in the manner of freedom, the principles of freedom, and you say that moms are dangerous, I mean, is there any more, does the light go on any brighter than that? That they're
right.
corrupt. And I hate using the word, but it has become so apparent to me, I feel like these days, does the light go on any brighter as to how evil they are?
There is an effort to drive a wedge between the parent and the child, and it's happening in our government schools, and they are government schools. I love the idea of public education, and I still believe it has many redeeming qualities, and that it's something to be reclaimed. I've watched and worked in schools as a school board member. I've seen that teachers change the lives of children. And, we as moms want to partner with our kids' schools. What we're not willing to do, as you said, is co-parent with the government. And there are some things, there's a boundary between school and home. And I know every day when people turn on their news channel or whatever they do, go online, they can see evidence of that. People are asking themselves, how did schools start teaching this? Why is this being taught in schools? Why are they not teaching our kids how to read anymore? Why do we have such a literacy crisis in this country? Right? What are we paying for? Why do we keep funding failure? If you were a surgeon and 2/3 of the people that you operated on died on the operating table, you would not be able to practice medicine anymore. But yet, and then the question is, I think teachers in general have a calling to do this work. So why do the teachers not have the tools they need to be able to reach these children? And instead of vilifying them, moms want to say like, how can we help teachers to get what they need? It's certainly not a lack of money being spent. That's the issue.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's so much money spent on public education.
Well,
so,
Baltimore's one of the worst, and I think per student or whatever, at one point within the, I don't know if it was during the Obama administration or whatever, they were the number one. They were the number one spender.
I don't know, but the truth of the matter is these kids need to learn how to read. We're spending a ton of money on public education, but we're not getting the results that we need to see. And I don't think there's anything worse than not teaching a child how to read. You condemn them to a life of struggle and crime, to be honest. And so, all this talk about diversity and equity and inclusion and, social emotional learning and all this stuff, it's just like this flowery nonsense. It's all an excuse for educational failure. We need to take all of the icing, all of the crap off of the cake and look at the foundation and say, what is it that we want our kids to be learning to do in school? And how can we partner with schools to make sure that's happening?
Right.
And, to be honest, the teachers' unions have been a huge problem. They continue to gaslight parents and tell us that, oh, this isn't being taught. And then the next day it's the best thing since sliced bread. Right. And, so we need everybody. That's the point here. Like, this isn't just for moms. I know we say Moms for Liberty because moms, we believe that moms have the guiding hand here, but we need dads. We need grandparents. We need community members. We need people who love America to join us. You can go to our website at momsforliberty.org and you can see if there's a chapter near you. If you think you want to start one and you don't have one in your area, you can click to start one. You can find ways to help. You can donate money. We are trying to, we have a summit coming up and we're flying moms in to be able to participate with that. You can write op-eds. Like, there's so much you can do right now to help to support parents, because the truth is, educating our nation's children is something to be valued, and it's something that we're all invested in. So we should make sure it's done well.
Absolutely.
Why do you think it was complacency, or we just weren't paying attention, apathy?
All of the above.
That it was able to get there to this point
All
where
the above.
The CRT, I mean, we talked about it last week, that all 50 states, now I don't know for sure exactly I didn't get a chance to research it enough, but that all 50 states have adopted the SEL principles.
Yeah, that's like the most pervasive thing I would say that's being done. And it was originally done in a way that was somewhat innocuous. I mean, I'll be honest, my daughter was in kindergarten. She's 17 now. But 12 years ago, I was in a classroom, going through and saying, okay, guys, so when you're angry, what are some things that you can do? And you can take deep breaths, or you can exercise, go for a walk, you can count to 10. That was the start of SEL. And what it's become is something that has become, I do believe, a vehicle for the entry of all of these other ideas of critical theory.
Right.
It cashes in on the inherent empathy of children. And it
Right.
puts ideas in their head that children would never think about. And
Right.
every day I have to watch like adults working out their trauma. You can hear my family in the background, excuse me. But it does, it often feels like adults working out their trauma. They were
Right.
mistreated as a child. Something happened with them, and then they're going to be on a mission, this messianic vision kind of to save children. Well, the truth is it's 2022 and parents love their kids in America. And I don't think they care if they're gay or they're straight, who they marry. We just want our kids to be happy, to unfold the full potential of every child. And so there's a lot of efforts to divide us in America. We see that as adults.
Oh my
What I'm
gosh.
telling you is that with the kids, it's done in such a, you said evil before. It's done in such a
Insidious.
sneaky way,
Yes.
right? And then when you have parents saying, wait a second, I don't understand why, you're talking to my kids about sex in kindergarten. Why are you normalizing some of these things in middle school? I saw a handout that went out to a Florida middle school. I think it was Hillsborough County. If you go to my Twitter page, go to the Moms for Liberty Twitter page, you can see it. That basically was kind of normalizing like 12-year-olds having sex, that this boy was thinking about when he was going to have sex with a girl. And then the girl had had sex before and he hasn't. And then sometimes when he feels depressed, he drinks. And what part of drinking do they think will play in the sex? And I just was thinking to myself, like, these kids are 12. You're talking about 7th grade. Certainly, are they being exposed to some of these things? Maybe, but should we be normalizing that in the classroom, or should the message be that these are not
No.
healthy things for 12-year-olds to take part in?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like the common sense parent part of this here. And I'll be honest, I mean, I think this transcends, and we're seeing with the polling, this transcends political party. This transcends any type of race, ethnicity, age. This is something that parents are united about.
I agree. When you said that the message should be, that you shouldn't be thinking about those things, and that shouldn't be normalized. That certainly kids are going to be exposed to some things and face some issues and stuff, but it shouldn't be normalized. When you look at the sex ed state law and policy chart, which is on the resources page for you out there of your website, in Florida, they say it like it's a bad thing that Florida schools teach abstinence. Teach not having sex. Promote not having sex. Promote waiting. Like
How would that be a bad thing?
Right. Well, because they're trying to normalize it for them. And I've said this about the Florida law, the Parental Rights Act, that's focused at K through 3. I feel like the reason that they talk about the mental development or whatever being pretty much complete around 7 or 8 years old for kids. Where they're pretty much formed at that point. That's why they're wanting to get at them. They want to get to them earlier and earlier.
Right.
So they can make that permanent. And that's just a thought I have.
It's true.
Yeah, I think they're normalizing. It does feel like they're normalizing a lot of that behavior. And, again, the question I've asked many people, even with a lot of these books in the libraries and stuff, is, do we want 12-year-olds having sex? Do we want that? Is that what we want? Because if it's not what we want, honestly, right? If it's not what we want, then we need to stop talking to them about sex all the time. Let's talk about some other things that they can be involved in that are more productive and age appropriate than, sexual intercourse at 12.
Right.
Like reading and writing.
Or sports, or, there are lots of things that kids can get involved in and channel that energy into. Am I going to say that 12-year-olds aren't thinking about sex? Well, maybe they are, but again, channel that energy into something more productive, because I assure you, you don't want a nation of 12-year-old pregnant girls. I mean, that is not right. I mean, come on.
Well, which is which the leak for this, from the Supreme Court, opinion that Roe versus Wade could be overturned. They are all about all these. Pregnant teens means to me, in their world, abortions.
Right.
And I don't.
Well, and I'll speak from my own personal perspective, but then from a parental rights perspective, there are districts where, they're lowering and lowering and lowering the age of informed consent. So you're talking about a 12-year-old
So disgusting.
now. Like in California, I think Senator Scott Weimer is celebrating a bill that passed the Senate, I think, in California today, that basically moved the age down to 12 for kids to be able to get vaccinations and to be able to do all kinds of things, and so medical things. And so you have to ask yourself, why this effort to continue? And he actually says in his tweet today, even if parents disagree, kids should be able to make these decisions for themselves. No, 12-year-olds do not know their medical history. They should not be making vaccination decisions on their own. And you tell me the mom that wants her daughter to be guided to get an abortion through her school without the mom being a part of that, even if the mom is okay with it. Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
The parent would still want to be aware. So this idea that somehow minors, when they're in government schools, which is what they are now, because they're taking control of that child. They've taken in loco parentis to the extreme of where it should ever have possibly been. And making decisions for children here in Florida, the gender transition stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Go into it a little bit for us.
In Leon County, Florida, January Littlejohn had a daughter who came to her and said that she thought she was transgender. Apparently, a couple of her friends were identifying as transgender. That means when a child says that they are identifying or feel like they're not the biological sex they've been born, right? And so the mom is involved in mental health counseling, and she went to the school and she said, listen, my daughter came to us and she is a little confused here, but we're not affirming in the home. We're going to, there are some other issues we're dealing with and we're going to do counseling, but we just want to make you aware of this, but we're not affirming. And then the school took it upon themselves to put their child into a social gender transition program without the consent or knowledge of the parents. The daughter was offered different pronouns at school, to use a different bathroom, where she would like to sleep when she went on field trips, with which biological sex. And then in Clay County, Florida as well, another child put into a gender transition program. The parents didn't find out about it until they arrived at the school, and apparently the little girl had tried to commit suicide. And so this idea of, children being forced to live a double life by schools, think about what kind of damage that would do to a child. And in California, in certain places, they have things like transition closets where the kids can actually go and change their clothes once they go to school. And there are chest binders there that they will give the kids to compress the girl's breasts. And it's like a joke to some people. I was on Don Lemon when they still had CNN Plus. I recorded an episode. They asked me to come on, and I tried to share about the concerns about the chest binders, because it's a medical thing. Not done properly, it can really hurt these girls, and it's something that certainly a parent of a child should be a part of that decision. And Don Lemon made a joke. He was like, oh, yeah, I think my sister wore one of those when she would play sports. And I was like, yeah, Don, that a different thing. Not the same thing, right?
So what is their legal recourse if they find out something like this is going on?
So that's a great question. So in a lot of places, they really don't have a lot of recourse. The standard of care right now for these types of issues is medical transition and medical affirmation, and gender affirmation. So in some places, parents don't have a recourse. In fact, in some places, if parents aren't affirming, they actually are being held liable. It's called now conversion therapy for them to not affirm their child's gender transition. And just so that everyone can understand, in Canada, very long border with the United States. It's my Kamala Harris moment. Very long border. All of the MPs apparently, just to the north. They had a unanimous vote to consider it conversion therapy if you do not affirm the gender transition that your child wants. And so in Florida right now, that HB 1557 that the governor signed into law, that was parental rights in education, that said that teachers couldn't use gender identity and instruction and sexual orientation instruction in grades K through 3. And a lot of parents said, why not K through 12? So you probably see that bill next year.
Me too. That's my
But
question.
Yes, that's awesome.
but in grades K through 3. And then it went on to say that schools need to tell parents about these things. If a child is coming forward and is expressing, mental health concerns at school, that parents need to be made a part of that. And certainly, these issues are something a parent should be a part of. And so right now with that law, parents now have a private right of action where they're able to hold districts liable if they find that these things are being taught. But it's going to take brave parents coming forward and telling their stories about what their kids go through, which is hard.
Can you imagine?
Okay, my blood is boiling.
Can you imagine? All these parents all these don't say gay clowns that are yelling "don't say gay" and blah blah blah. Can you imagine if one of their kids were offered Christian conversion therapy when they thought they were gay? Could you imagine the blowback and the outrage?
Oh my God, they would just, they'd be foaming at the mouth, literally.
There's not a parent alive, is there, that would that wants their kids counseled on a mental issue without their knowledge?
Right.
Nor do the schools have the capacity to be doing that work.
Right.
They don't do a good job at the job they're supposed to be doing. When did they ever think that they could take this on?
Right.
Well, if you look on libs of TikTok, I think you find some very, very highly qualified individuals. That's sarcasm.
Okay, let me back up a minute, because you said there's no recourse?
In a lot of places, there isn't really any recourse for parents. And when they fight back against this, they're the ones who end up being vilified. And their children sometimes are taken away from them. There are cases where children have been removed from the custody of a parent because the parent wasn't willing to affirm the gender transition of a child. And the thing that we're finding is that gender transition has changed a lot in the last I'd say, I think it's changed a lot in the last 5 years, but then, we could look 10 years back. And what we're seeing now is this like rapid onset gender dysphoria, where it's like groups of girls together that are saying, oh, I always felt like a boy. And parents are saying, no, you never, this wasn't something that, parents know their kids, and moms are saying, that's not true. You never said that. Right? Let's talk. What else is going on with you? And certainly coming out of COVID, think of all of the mental distress kids have had, right? They were locked down and quarantined. And, I know even with my own children, I saw, and we were in Florida, but think of school closures, right? Forced on the screen all the time. So you have this generation and nation of children in mental distress anyway, forced mental distress as far as I'm concerned. It's awful. And people should be held accountable for that. Hopefully Absolutely. At some point people will. But and then you have something like this coming. And, a question that I asked recently was like, what's the difference between, telling an anorexic that they're fat and encouraging them and to get liposuction than, agreeing with someone who is gender dysphoric and, and that says that their body isn't what they say it is. And I got a lot of flack for that. But the truth of the matter is it's a relevant question. Oftentimes these kids are, displaying extreme mental distress, or they have different things like about 35% of the kids we see are autistic or on the autism spectrum. So we're talking about vulnerable kids anyway. And then imagine how hard it is to come out, to say that you're transgender and then to, be in middle school with everybody and be like, oh, I think I made a mistake. That doesn't happen, right? You kind of get trapped in it too. Right. So anyway, at this very vulnerable point in the lives of these children, the schools are separating them from their parents. It's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, so where do we start if we haven't gotten this far yet? And then I also want to ask you about the segue between SEL and CRT. But so where do we start to keep this from happening?
So you want to be working, if you have children in the school district, I think it's very important to be asking to see what your kids are learning, to have access to what your kids are learning, certainly around the areas of social emotional learning, around gender identity, and around and sex education, right? You want to know, like, how is sex education being taught? And you need to make sure that you have access to all of that so you can look at it in advance. And you can just send an email to your child's principal, and then start there.
What if you don't have a child?
then-
Can you request
If you
that?
don't, yeah, you can still send a letter to your school district and ask how things are being taught in your district. And you're a taxpayer and you have every right to ask. And if they don't answer you, go to your school board meeting and say, I sent you an email on X date and you still haven't replied to me. And I'd like to
go in there with you have a child.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is being taught in this district. I'm a taxpayer. I mean, in Florida, over 50% of your ad valorem taxes go to public education. More than that.
Wow.
Over 50.
So
Yeah.
the national sex education standards put out by the Future of Sex Education. Does Florida subscribe to those?
Not completely, no. But it seems like there are parts of those standards that are seeping into a lot of all of our districts and their guidelines that and standards and what's being taught. I'll give you an example. As I said, in New Jersey, they adopted those standards in 2020 in the middle of COVID. And parents now just got to review the curriculum. So the standard is, will gender identity being taught in what grades? And in New Jersey, it says grades K through 12. And then you say, okay, well, how are we going to teach about gender identity? And then you'll have curriculums, you'll have textbooks and other instructional materials that the districts will buy. And, you saw in Florida recently a bunch of, talk around the math textbooks that were rejected, right? So the publishers come and they offer their curriculum to be adopted. And then and then the parents can be a part of reviewing it. And one of the things that we do is really try to get parents involved in their committees in their local districts, because there's something called a textbook review committee that you can be a part of. Anyone can be a part of it, actually. Anyone can in your community.
Picking up a little bit, I think.
I'm sorry?
I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Somehow.
I'm hearing her fine. Maybe you just broke up when you talked to me, so I don't know.
Oh.
I think we're good right now.
Maybe
though.
It's my.
By the way,
Okay.
Kelly, did you try and
Okay.
Kelly? Can you post on Play Harder?
I did.
Okay. All right. I just
did
wondered.
already,
Did
yeah.
you message Scott? He's based.
Yes. He's watching.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, he's watching.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I got involved in the school board situation 2 years ago when all the crap was going crazy about the masks. We were trying to get the masks off the kids, and then now the SEL/CRT. So, can you explain how that SEL sneakily segues into CRT?
Yeah, I mean, I think SEL started, so SEL, social emotional learning. I think the idea that every child should feel safe and loved in the classroom is a great idea, right? I think every person can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody would argue that.
Right. No one would argue that, right? So we can all agree that that's something to be of value. And so I think social emotional learning really kind of was looking at the fact that we had kids coming into the classroom that were coming in with a deficit of some skills, right? And so, teachers would often say, I can teach the basics if I had, if kids were coming in and the teachers had better classroom management, or the kids were, able to be in a classroom and have respect for other kids in the classroom. And so I think that there was an effort to try to help kids to understand how to regulate themselves in a classroom environment and at school. And perhaps that was rooted in, teachers not getting enough classroom management training and education when they're, in teachers college, learning to be a teacher. But I don't think I think it was meant to be, I think it was well-intentioned. And I know the path to hell is paved with
Right.
intentions. But then it morphed into something else. And I think it was hijacked by activist groups. And in Florida, we know there are many activist groups. And I think it was hijacked. And then it was used as a way to kind of undermine the teachings of the home, a lot of what and it seems that, I know that seems strange, right? Something that was supposed to be so good, but the truth of the matter is that it ends up using these kids to think about themselves in ways that they are, and how they're different, right? And then while you celebrate uniqueness, which is something that should be celebrated, right? And everyone's unique, it then becomes something that makes you different. Instead of different and good, you're just different and why. And so then all of the teaching that happens in these classes, and this is why SEL used to be like something you did at circle time in the morning. And then it became a part of literally everything that the kids are doing. How do you feel about that, right? How does that make you feel? How do you think that makes so-and-so feel? How do you think that makes so-and-so feel because of the way that so-and-so looks, or the way that so-and-so, and it just became, I think it snowballed into this, it was a well-intentioned, but then became and kind of got hijacked into this way to really make kids not have any knowledge and skills, but to just be reactive beings who are constantly, like James Lindsay talks about the fact that the kids are programmed. They're not even indoctrinated. They're kind of programmed to respond to things in a certain way. And when you look at the way that CRT and other critical theory, queer theory enters the classroom, it's constantly looking for a reaction or a response. How do you feel about that? Which is more important than what you know. And, the way that history is taught in a lot of schools, and I know that we're going to work in Florida to change that, but these kids are taught things kind of in a bubble.
Oh my gosh.
It lives and it has no connection to anything else. I remember my son was answering questions about a speech that a president had made on the cusp of World War II. And I just thought to myself, he's 10. Like, he doesn't know anything about World War II. He doesn't have a solid understanding about the Holocaust because that hasn't been covered in great detail yet. He was in 5th grade. And, does he understand what isolationism is? And, and he was being asked to interpret the words of a president on the eve of war. And I just thought to myself, like, he's not really, they don't care if he really understands the weight of those words. They just want to kind of get him to react and answer about this passage in the way that they want. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it's a very...
Yeah, no, you are. It's like they're programming them to what to think about war.
Yeah, it was just...
Instead of teaching history.
Mm-hmm. It's really never based in any skills. It's really based in, if you don't listen to James Lindsay, he talks about Paulo Freire and the politics of education and critical pedagogy. And it's really, that's why when people say like, oh, CRT is not being taught in schools, they're right. It's not being taught in schools, but it's a way of teaching that is done in a very critical fashion, so that everything that you're asking the child to do is pitting the normative is bad, and they need to react and pivot against it. And that's really complicated for a 5-year-old.
It's not a subject in itself.
Yeah, it's not. And so it is woven into every part of the kids' education now. Even sex ed is kind of woven into every part of the education. And so when school districts tell you you can opt out, and you should definitely opt your kids out of every survey. That's one area that you really need to push back against. Opt your kids out of surveys, all of them. But
really,
parents are just in a difficult position right now because.
So what happened? What happens when people have their kids go against the new norm that they are trying to create, the new, their agenda or whatever. They're out there. They make them outcasts. Like when you could go to school in the United States in 2020 and 2021, and kids had a medical exemption for masks or something like that. They would put them in a glass box by themselves in the corner of the room, like they were diseased.
I think it's just one more effort to divide. I think it was just another opportunity to try to divide and to pit, kids against each other. And really it was, control. The masks were so interesting to me because from a science standpoint, I had all the information that showed me that the masks didn't work. especially in the school setting, the way that the kids were wearing them, the masks that the kids were wearing. They just didn't work. In fact, I actually think that they probably
Right.
caused more illness in some ways with kids than not.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
Agreed.
sure.
100%
And
agreed.
so, yeah, and so, so from that standpoint, but I always, and even Moms for Liberty, our position always was, again, I don't have to agree with you to respect your right to parent your child. So, if you want to mask your kid, okay, mask your kid. Just, you can't force me to mask my kid, right?
Right.
And there was always that kind of respect for, but if you feel like the mask is helping your child, I can tell you why it's not, but I'm going to, if you want to know, but I'm going to respect your right to do it. It was scary to see schools and it was really scary to see schools ignore science and really all other mitigation strategies they could have employed. Right.
Well, so, did when you were on the school, you probably weren't on the school board, but you would know about it, I guess, in the 2020 and 2021. But the CARES Act was paying schools and funding school districts for keeping kids masked, for social distancing, masking, and that type of thing. You're familiar with that?
Yeah, and and I was familiar with we fought very hard in Florida to get masks off of kids, and ultimately, you had the new Surgeon General come in and issue the Department of Health guidance that said that masking should be the sole discretion of the parent, and that quarantining also should be the sole discretion of the parent. That was super important. Department of Health guidance that said that masking should be the sole discretion. And so, we've just seen that again with the gender guidance. If you look, the Department of Health in Florida put out new guidance regarding gender dysphoria. And that's very important because it approaches things from a health standpoint. What we saw districts in Florida do was the fact that we had about 11 districts that broke the law, that said to the governor and the Surgeon General, we don't really care what your guidance is. We're going to follow the CDC and we're going to force masks on kids. And then we had you saw the governor and the State Board of Education said that they were going to, then take away and subtract the school board members' salaries that were breaking the law. And then you had the federal government come in and cover those costs and give money to the districts and say, good for you for breaking the law in your state. It's very dangerous to see a federal government step in and violate a state's rights like that. So, yeah, there's no doubt the CARES Act money, the ESSER funds money, it's been used in all different kinds of ways across the country. It's been used for CRT work and DEI work, no doubt. And, it shouldn't be surprising to anyone. We're at a stage right now where in the past week, we've had 2 different new government agencies, apparently, or offices be opened, right? We've had the Office of Disinformation or whatever that is. And then we've also had today, the Office of Environmental Justice created.
Oh my
and
Lord.
So, we are in a position right now where the American government is growing by leaps and bounds at a time when really we should be cutting back on spending. And in many different ways, government spending, should be very focused. And instead of focusing on the fact that, kids are not learning in our schools, which should make every American very angry. This is the biggest threat to national security we have.
Yes.
Of children who cannot read.
Absolutely.
Who have no discernment and have to rely on other people for information. And when you have someone like Jen Psaki, or you have the President of the United States, spreading lies about a bill in Florida that we very much knew exactly what that bill did and didn't do, that's a real problem.
Everybody lies about
Americans have to stand up. Well, yeah, everybody did. But
but
we've got to stand up together and fight.
That
I got kicked
that
off.
gets the result that they're
That was
looking
one of the
for.
things I posted on my story today. You saw those little black and white things I posted, Kelly, in my story. Like, when are you going to stand up? And but I got kicked off of Facebook today, Tiffany. So for 7 days.
I just always think everybody's got a line. What's your line? Right? You ask about the masks. I was like, if they can force a mask on your child all day long, every day, even when you're going to them and you're telling them, this mask is hurting my child. I'm a parent. I'm telling you. And they can force you to be complicit in the abuse of your child. Like, what else? What can they not do?
So, right, exactly. So you talked about literacy, being the greatest threat to our, national security of our children and such. And so through this whole COVID thing, what they've done is kids did not get a good education or, much of an
They
education.
got no education.
Sometimes none. Yep.
For a year or two, a year and a half, 1 year, whatever. And yet they just push them on, right? To the next grade or whatever. Without the learning that was supposed to be done during that time.
Yeah, that should blow your mind. There were kids who went to kindergarten and then missed first and second grade, and then they went to third grade. Like nothing.
Yeah.
Like being in first grade or second grade or kindergarten wasn't a big deal, and like they were just gonna what? And so then you see the CDC change milestones. How many, the American Academy of Pediatrics, another bunch of liars who change milestones instead of acknowledging if they tell the truth, they have to acknowledge the harm, and they will never acknowledge the harm. And so because they're unwilling to acknowledge the harm that they have caused, they will just change the metrics so that it doesn't appear like they've done anything wrong. It's the same thing school districts do. Oh, let's stop giving this assessment because we don't like what the scores are. Let's change what the metrics are, the rubric is for success in this class so that it looks like we're doing a better job, rather than, again, acknowledging the harm and then trying to fix it.
It's just so, and then so the things we've talked about, and just like this, and because they do think, like you said, ignoring the science, and you said a few minutes ago that you felt like SEL was well intentioned. I've come to the point that I feel like the SEL comes from the left. And I think that they knew exactly. I feel like they knew exactly what they're doing, and I don't think from where it came from, and it was originally derived, that it was well intentioned. It's just like everything else. They seep it in until you're, destroyed.
So let me clarify there. I would, if I could. I think the teachers are well intentioned. That's the thing.
Yes, absolutely.
The majority of the teachers are like, I think being a teacher is a calling. If I was a teacher, I'd be a kindergarten teacher. Literally everything we would do would be in song. I would just sing all day long with them, and then they'd memorize. They'd be, but seriously though, I think it is a calling, and I love teachers, and I know I can't. I mean, honestly, I know homeschooling's great for some people. Not this person so much. I don't. To work full time and to homeschool. And I think that's really hard. And I know there are a lot of moms who might even like to homeschool, but can't afford to do it, right? They work and they're single moms. And so, public education is going to continue to exist. And I can pull my kids out. A lot of us can pull our kids out. But the truth of the matter is you're still going to have to know that you're walking away from a burning building and there are kids inside. And I just feel like moms are connected to other moms in a way that's very special. Whether you birthed that child or you've adopted that child, right? That's your child, and I have seen that connection. I know how real it is. And, I just feel like moms here need to come together and work to fight for the survival of America, because I don't know who else is going to do it, but we all have a vested interest like no one else. And so that's why Moms for Liberty, but we want dads too. Grandparents, find a chapter near you, right? Join, go to momsforliberty.org. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at For Tiffany Justice on Twitter. Find a way to get involved. Don't believe any of the negative hype in the media, because mainstream media lies most of the time, to be honest with you.
Do you have teachers involved in Moms for Liberty?
Yeah, we do, but a lot of them want to, they're anonymous right now. I was at a meeting with teachers, and the teacher spoke, and then as she walked, one of our members was a teacher, and she spoke, and she walked by the union members that were at the meeting, and one of the members went like this to her.
Oh,
yeah,
real. And I can't see you. What'd she do?
She did like a look like crossing her finger across, like slitting some.
Oh yeah.
So teachers, I think in general, just need us to support them. We need to create ways in our communities to say to teachers, like, listen, if you don't like what's happening in your schools, tell us and we'll be your voice for you. And because I just really believe that in my heart, I think the majority of teachers in America are not these woke teachers that want to, sexualize kids. I think that they are finding themselves trapped in a profession where they've invested a lot of time and energy and they genuinely care about the kids. But, they've got kids of their own. It's too much to ask teachers to raise other people's kids too.
It's
they
ridiculous.
then raise them too. It's too much. And so when people say, oh, teachers are leaving the school profession because of parents, that's baloney. I don't believe that teachers are leaving because of parents. I think teachers are leaving because they're being asked too much.
That's
Of
gaslighting.
themselves. And they're human beings who
yeah.
want to have a life of their own.
It's gaslighting that they're leaving because of parents. I don't believe it's true either. We have to find a way to help them stand up though, because, who did I get into it? Was it with a couple of your friends, Kelly? Teachers
Yes.
that I got into
A
it
couple of
with?
my teacher friends. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you say good people, right?
They are very good people. I love them. Yes. But it's like she said, they are all very well meaning. They care about the kids. They love the kids. But they're letting the establishment manipulate them with this supposed, caring way to teach their class. And it's like I said, it's just going to morph into the agenda.
Well, and the harder, I think, the bigger deficit that kids have in the classroom where they're coming in unprepared, right? You think about like a middle school algebra teacher. If a student hasn't learned their multiplication tables in elementary school where they're meant to learn them, when they get into middle school, that teacher now is having to build a foundation for that child that they should have come in with, right? So that job for that teacher is that much harder. And I just feel like teachers are being put into positions where, they can't help but fail. But, then someone's telling them, well, it's because, you're not being a culturally relevant teacher, or, tell me what difference a child's race makes in the way that you're going to teach them how to do math. What part of a child's religion should affect, how they learn how to do math, right? And so I just think that a lot of this is when I say an excuse for educational failure, the CRT, SEL, DEI stuff, the districts don't want to own the harm. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that they've got a real problem on their hands where they've got, sometimes only 30% of their students reading on grade level or proficient in reading at the grade level where they are. And they don't know what to do about it. Right? It's easier to hire a consultant who's going to, sprinkle magic fairy dust over everything and make it about that. But that's not going to really get kids reading. And, as Americans, we need to stand up and we need to stop these, professionals from telling us that we don't know what we're talking about. Parents are their kids' first teachers. Parents know if their kids aren't learning.
Absolutely.
Right. And the sad thing is, when I started going to the school board meetings, I had no kids in school at that, time a couple of years ago. And there is literally no parents at those meetings. They have no clue what's even going on.
That's why we've tried to have the moms come out together. Again, we have the podcast. It's the Joyful Warrior podcast. And I named it that really intentionally when Tina and I started this. Fighting for your country is a privilege. And I don't want our kids growing up remembering us fighting for the survival of this country and being angry all the time. I'm a joyful person, right? That it is a privilege to fight for this country. So,
Amen.
Yeah. And when you look at what was happening in Ukraine and they were talking about who's picking up the arms, who's going to fight for the country, I thought to myself, who would fight for America? And then I looked around and I'm like,
right.
Oh, moms.
Nobody.
Well, it's the moms that are fighting, but we need the dads.
Well, but I meant from other places. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
But we need the dads. What we really need is the professionals. We need everyone. We need the people who own the companies. We need the people who work at the companies. We need the people that are the stay-at-home moms. We need the homeschool parents that knew enough to know better. We need all the people we need the grandparents, all the people that think, oh, this doesn't matter. This isn't important to us. We need everyone to step up together.
If people don't feel like it's affecting their life at the moment, most people won't get involved.
Right.
Well,
If
if
it,
you own a company and your employees, kids are not doing well in school, your employees are not going to be the best that they can be because they're going to be concerned about how their kids are doing in school, or they're going to be looking to move somewhere else.
right?
And there's a gentleman in Orlando, Mr. Rosen, he owns a number of hotels, and I got to see very directly how he got involved in transforming some of the areas around his hotels in the Orlando community. Because he recognized that if his employees felt good about their children's education, that they were going to be loyal to him, and they were going to, he was going to create a better community for them to live in. And it was, a beautiful thing to watch as he sent kids off. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows him, but I mean, he sent kids off to college, paid for their whole colleges. I mean, he's transformed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But you can make that type of difference in your community. You just have to get involved.
That's very insightful and intelligent, because as we all know as parents, there's nobody that we are more attracted to or love or want to support or help than somebody who treats and loves our kids, treats our kids well and loves our kids and does things for our kids. They're the best people in the world to us.
Right.
So
how much longer are we going? Because I have another question.
go. I mean, as long as Tiffany's good, we got another half hour.
Okay.
I'm okay.
We don't want to keep you all night, but what are the steps for somebody to start a local chapter if there's not one in their area?
Sure. So if you go to our map on our website, momsforliberty.org, and you're going to see the map of
Wait
the
a minute.
United
Moms
States.
for the what? Oh, moms. Okay.
Momsforliberty.org. Yep. And
Okay.
so go to momsforliberty.org and click on the map and click on your state, and you'll be able to see where there are chapters in your local area.
Okay.
Our closest,
Right. And then if you don't have a chapter in your area, you can click to start a chapter.
Oh, cool.
And-
Okay.
Yeah. And so there is a vetting process for that. You're going to be asked.
I'm sure. Yes.
Yep. Because what we know is really you can't do this alone. And so what we're going to ask you is, have you gone to a school board meeting? Are you aware, right? Have you spoken at a school board meeting? Do you have 10 like-minded people that can start a chapter with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You have. Yeah. I mean, but we want people to know what they're getting into, right? We talk to them about the chapter, and we talk to them about, we're very honest, this is not going to be easy, but what we really feel like is, we have to build this capacity for leadership in our individual counties across the country. And that's the way that we'll create real lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
I've got that on the screen, on the TV screen in the wide shot. I don't know if you can see it very well or not. Todd could probably put it on the full screen. There's a link down at the bottom to request info there. And then there's a bunch of questions that, a bunch of links to get questions answered for starting a chapter. I think that's very insightful that you want them to have 10 people to that see the vision.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Yeah, they can't do it alone,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even on school board when I was there, that's part of the reason why we started Moms for Liberty, because you can't do it by yourself, right? And that's why we say we're building an army across this country of like-minded people, because even if you get elected to school board, you need that group of people in your community to, support the change that you're trying to make, or the different policies that you'd like to offer or you'd like to have happen.
Are all the teachers in the union?
It depends. Are you talking about in Florida in general?
Well, in general, but in Florida, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, in Florida, it really ranges from district to district. In my county where I served, it was about 70%. In Brevard County, it was below 50%. So it really does depend. But they had a very strong union in Brevard. The truth of the matter is, with the teachers' unions, is the fact that they have been very invested in education for quite some time. And so what we see happen is that the unions have put on to the board the people that they would like to see on those boards.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That support the Randy Weingarten view.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the time that's come for parents, right, to be involved, creating that change they want to see in their communities, and getting involved and getting elected for school board.
Todd, do you know what? Are you part of the union?
No,
Were you asked to be?
I could if I wanted.
Right. Todd's in Fort Walton,
But
which
they don't
is
force
two
you to.
counties over. 3 counties over, I guess, from Escambia, where we're at. And you have a chapter there.
Oh yeah, I mean every school system does.
No, a chapter of Moms
Oh.
for Liberty
Oh, we do.
in
Oh,
Fort
okay.
Walton.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe it's the only one in the Panhandle right now.
Walton's a great school system.
Do you?
The cool thing about it is that here's the thing, you can get involved. You don't have to join a group. But with Moms for Liberty, what we found is that, courage is contagious. And when you can find like-minded people in your community to stand together, right? And you're like, oh, you think this is wrong? Oh, I think it's wrong too. You don't want them talking about sex to your kindergartner? Me too. Let's go together.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you come together, and the truth of the matter is with Moms for Liberty, and if you've gotten anything from me, besides the fact that I have a very noisy family in this interview, and I apologize for that. Lots of kids in my
Who doesn't?
Well,
Love it. Love it.
been some fighting amongst the children about who was going to do dishes, so I apologize about that. But
Everybody.
I'm a normal mom. Yep. And
What?
so I've got 4 kids. Yep. But we're a serious organization. We will bake the cupcakes. We will volunteer in class. We will partner with our kids' schools. But you do not mess with us when it comes to our kids and our rights to direct the upbringing of our children. We do not mess around.
Amen.
When I spoke to you, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, when we talked on the phone, I could feel the business-like nature that you carry about this.
Well, I put on my baseball cap, and I know we're doing, play harder tonight. But the truth of the matter is we're getting parents a seat at the table at every level of government. That's the point.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, I think you're going to inspire some people. I've been a mouthpiece about going to school board meetings, and I'm gonna, we played that clip last week of the lawyer in New York City saying it's not enough to go to a meeting and go yeah, and then go home and sit on your couch.
Right.
You've got to get up and
You
take
got to get off
action.
the comfy couch. That's what we say on the podcast all the time. My friend Pat Blackburn is one of the best people I know. She's our chapter chair coordinator around the country. And she helps and counsels moms. And she helped me when I was on school boards. She kind of got a peek behind the education curtain too. And she tells people all the time, you got to get off the comfy couch, people. This is the time. I do not know what to say except for that we have been given an opportunity through COVID. It is a blessing. I know it was very, very difficult. But we have been given an opportunity here where our country woke up in a way that I don't think would have been possible if not for it. And there is lemonade to be made. And the lemonade is that parents
Right
are
on.
awake across the country. We have ignited a fire amongst parents, and they will be the fighters that will move this country forward. And hopefully 50 years from now, we'll look back and remember a parent revolution that crushed a Marxist revolution in the United States of America. And,
I don't think they counted on this side effect of COVID.
no, I just don't think that they ever thought
They
this many
did not.
Americans would wake up. They didn't realize. And I think
No.
that what you're seeing now is an escalation of plans in a very rapid manner. It just means that we're going to have a bit more cleaning up to do, but we will get our country back.
Well,
I do believe that.
the World Economic Fund, in conjunction with the United Nations, have just entered into or made a new agreement or whatever they did, Kelly. I didn't get a chance to go into it deeply, to step up their efforts, for
Of
their
the
Agenda 21.
Agenda 2030.
Well, originally it was Agenda 21.
21, right.
And then it turned into 2030 because, Trump threw a wrench in the works.
Right.
But I think they are waking up. And for me, I think, we have to look all the way back to 2008 when Obama Obama got elected, that's when I started really getting woke up and learning what I'd been fooled about with our government and with our elected officials and such. So, I
think you have to ask ourselves, like, why don't they want the kids to learn to read? Why is this not the biggest issue that we're dealing with? Why is this? You know, I mean, you have things that are happening right now in America that should be waking people up. There is no baby formula. Does anyone know that? There's
right.
No,
yes, I do.
People can't find baby formula. So if you chose not to breastfeed or weren't able to breastfeed for some reason, and you are relying on formula, you are now in a position where perhaps you may not be able to find it. No one's talking about that. That's a really big deal.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
For my Mother's Day gift to mothers across this country is, if you're planning on getting pregnant or you're pregnant right now, work to breastfeed. I know it's hard.
Amen.
It's not always easy. It's not, you know, and it's different even with every baby, it's different. But my goodness, you have free, accessible, able to sustain a baby with your body. You know, and there are people that in your community, even if you don't even know them yet, that will help you to breastfeed. I know it's an odd conversation to have on this podcast, but it's true. I mean,
no, it's scary. I was just involved in trying to find some for my niece's friend, and I was calling people all over the country.
I didn't know this.
Hey, do you have this in your area? Yeah.
Sometimes babies can't have certain types of formula.
Right. That's what we were looking for. We were looking for a specialty. Yes.
But the truth is that, you know, most moms can breastfeed. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's a great thing to do, and you'll save money. And
it's a sacrifice, but for God's sake,
it's not a coincidence that it's an
what's
issue.
What's going on in your child's body?
That's not a Moms for Liberty message. That's just a Tiffany Justice message.
Yeah,
I have to share it because I have to share it because, you know, we talk about what can you do to save your. This is something that you can do. You can, you know.
You know what? Tiffany,
be aware.
You are the most positive thing under the name of justice in this country in a long time, because the things that justice has been attached to for the last 14 years is
social justice.
Unbelievable.
Well, you can thank my husband for that last name. 20 years of being together, 18 years of marriage this June. I got a great last name out of it, and he's a saint. So
June what?
June 5th.
Cool.
That's my sister's birthday and everybody's birthday, and
my mom and dad's was June 14th.
Oh, that's very nice.
I was born. I was born 9 months and 1 day after that.
Oh boy!
And my mom.
I got pregnant with my first daughter on our honeymoon. Same.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so my mom my mom was a very conservative, strict Christian girl, and so her friend, she got a lot of congratulatory phone calls, making it the whole 9 months.
Very nice.
But there is also a diaper shortage. There's also a diaper shortage.
Well, that I'd rather, I'll be honest. I would rather breastfeed, and I did breastfeed 4 children. But man, those cloth diapers would have killed me. I don't know.
Right.
I know.
That is something that will be new for American moms. But this is a conversation that we're having now. It's 2022. And we're talking about
so what do you think's behind it?
The diaper shortage.
What do you think's behind it? It's not just a coincidence.
My Tiffany Justice talking.
Yes.
Tiffany Justice talking says, that I think that there's definitely a destabilization happening in our country, and I think it's somewhat intentional. Yeah, there's been like a huge rise in food manufacturing facilities going up in flames, and I think it's so far in 2022. I think something like 17, and it's probably more than that because I saw a couple more.
Yeah, it is.
It's more than we've ever had happen. So why? Why would we want to destabilize all of these things that help America function? Well, I mean, I guess it
control.
It kind of seems like there are some people that are really invested in making sure that America isn't, a powerful country that leads as far as democracy is concerned.
Managed decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind. Well, if you know what the Cloward Piven is about crashing the economy, and they definitely want to bring the United States down to the level of everybody else and knock us off our pedestal and redistribute everything we have. And, we've got, look at the issues that we have, and just talking about the things we've talked about tonight. And they're proposing sending $33 billion to the Ukraine. I mean, what?
They're going to do it.
We've got the disinformation governance board, and nobody's screaming. People are openly in public forums speaking out against free speech.
Yep.
Speaking out against liberty and freedom.
That's why the school board meetings are so important. You need to come to your school board meetings and have your voices heard. And the truth is, again, you have a disinformation board now, and we're all, speaking up against it because we know the things that they're saying are not true, or this ridiculous, scary Poppins woman that they've selected.
Oh, my Lord.
I love that.
Yeah,
Scary Poppins.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, she's been wrong so many times. I just don't even understand. She is disinformation.
She is the queen of disinformation.
Yes.
I saw it, the Ministress. That was funny. But, the truth is that if the kids can't read, again, if our children cannot read, they will not be able to discern for themselves truth.
Right.
And so there is no one more invested in righting this ship and creating a better future in America than parents, because our whole beings, everything about us is invested in, creating a better future for our children and in equipping our children to have a good life. When you have a child, yes, you have parental rights, but you have responsibilities, and we take those very seriously. And, a lot of times there are efforts to kind of marginalize parents, or to try to say, well, there are a lot of parents who don't care about their kids. Well, yeah, that's true. And that sucks. That's a bad thing. That's not something we encourage.
Yeah. Right.
We try to encourage parents to get involved. So rather than just signing off and saying, oh, there are some parents who aren't engaged, we need to work to find ways to engage them. And so schools, instead of all this CRT, SEL stuff, should be taking all of that money and working to create better pathways for parent engagement. Parent involvement is the number one driver of student success, and we should be rolling out the
Absolutely.
Parents. We should be figuring out, why does my child have meetings at 9:30 in the middle of the day about my kid's, trajectory for high school? How many parents can drop work and come at 9:30? Right. So how are we working to reach parents in other ways so we can truly engage them? And, I believe that the school district will be better off for encouraging that engagement, and parents. I really believe at this point, parents really do want it. They're concerned about their kids. We've been told school choice was an option, but there aren't always that many options around us. And a lot of those options are woke. So, Moms for Liberty is here. We are, again, nonpartisan, grassroots organization, lots of different moms, different backgrounds, coming together, parents coming together to create the change they want to see in their communities. And I just urge everyone, find a way to get involved, if not with Moms for Liberty, but in some way. But if it's with us, then fantastic, because we can really use your support.
Yes, I'm going to look into this, because we do not have a chapter in Marion County, which is the capital of our state. How is that possible? There's one in the 3 states to the north of us, but not in Marion County.
Get on it, girl.
I will.
Do something, Kelly, for crying out loud.
Do something besides get thrown in jail.
Well, Tiffany,
dear.
Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much.
And,
Absolutely.
You're delightful.
And I
Absolutely
appreciate
delightful.
the ball cap.
Yes.
Even though,
That's
you know,
great.
this was a
I'm going to
sports.
send you one. You can wear it.
I will
on the
wear
show.
it. Trust me, I will wear it on the show, and day to day. But I'm the ass of whatever needs to be said, because I'm old enough now that I don't care what you think or what you think you're going to do to me or or take away from me or whatever, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about you know, the schools, and you've given me a lot to think about. You know, we've had Ramona Bessinger on here from Rhode Island, who you were familiar with when I brought her up the other day, who has stayed in the school system because she wants to make a change there, or hopefully. I mean, she's being, the forces stacked up against her are large and powerful, but and she's kind of taken a beating. But you know, I've been a big proponent since a guy that I think a lot of, Dennis Prager, has said the best thing you can do for America is to take your kids out of the public school system. And I've kind
It's
of
just
been
not an option for everyone.
right,
Right.
and I've
And
kind
not
of been
only that, you're just giving up, and there's going to be nobody left to fight. So
Yeah.
it'll just be
I
turned
see
over
the
to
other
reprobate.
side.
Totally.
Do you think that?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's constitutional, or I think it should, that public education should go back to the states. That the Department
Absolutely.
of Education, the federal Department of Education, needs to go away.
But the problem is they need that money.
Well, but there's a way to do that. The federal Department of Education really doesn't need to exist to
Correct.
the capacity that it does now, and it's become
Right.
huge. Betsy DeVos. So I'll take the opportunity, just if I could, to talk about our summit. May I quickly share about that?
Yes.
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 So July 14th through the 17th in Tampa, Florida, we're going to have something called the Joyful Warrior Summit. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to have 500 moms and dads, members of Moms for Liberty, come. We're going to have amazing speakers come. We've announced some of them on the website. Jack Brewer, James Lindsay, Betsy DeVos, the former Secretary of Education, is going to be there. And I'm going to get to interview her to talk about the Department of Education, right? All of the bureaucrats and all of the and the higher ed stuff, right? We see now with all of the student loans and this discussion about erasing student loans, right? And the Department of Education actually does play a large function in higher ed, which is interesting and not everyone understands. And so, great summit. We could use sponsors. I don't know if anyone listening has a business and they're willing to be a sponsor, but you can head to momsforliberty.org and you can check out the summit under events. And there's some sponsorship information because we really would love to be able to continue to support getting moms to the summit. Inflation and plane tickets have driven up travel prices like we wouldn't have possibly believed could be possible. So anyway, the summit's great. And we invite both of you to come and check it out. But bringing everyone together to, just learn together and have that shared knowledge and then pour it back out across the country, which will be pretty awesome, I think.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah. Do you have like a scholarship?
Kellie,
fund
are you
for
going to
people that need
Are you going to look
help?
into being there?
I would like to help somebody go. Since we don't even have a chapter here yet, I'd rather help somebody else go that already has a chapter.
Yeah, and I can talk to you about that, Kellie, and we
Okay.
can directly do that. Absolutely.
Okay.
I can absolutely do that. Right now, we're in the process in our growth stage of hiring state coordinators. So we're looking to do that hopefully eventually across the country, but little by little, building up state coordinators so that we can really support the chapters on the ground. Really important to do. And what you're going to see, again, 2022 is the year of the parent. This is a parent revolution that is happening across America. And, I've just am impressed every day by the moms and dads that step up, that get involved and use every tool that God has given them to make a change for the better for kids. So thank you for having me on tonight. I really
Hey,
appreciate
thank you so much.
And by the way, I'm excited that you're going to have Betsy DeVos on because I'm a huge fan of hers. And one of the things that infuriated, you know what? You're so right about you don't want your kids to remember you being angry through this time. And that's something I struggle with in a big way.
Yeah.
Because I am
too.
freaking angry
Yeah.
about it. And that's
When I was on school board, I was angry. I feel you.
one of the
know.
things that really disgusted me over the last, I don't remember, was from, during the Trump administration was Cory Booker, I believe, I don't know the school or whatever, but Cory Booker and Betsy DeVos served on the same, I believe, same private school board.
What?
I believe, for a school.
How's that possible?
And he has stabbed her in the back so hard that whole, once she, Trump named her the Department, of Education. And I love her. She took a beating for no good reason, unfairly, unbelievably. So I'm excited that
She's
you're
a
going to
really incredible woman. I got to meet her the other day. She came by and actually visited the school district I served in when she was the Secretary of Education. And then I got to meet her the other day to kind of just discuss what, coming to the summit and speaking and what she felt about what was happening in America. And she's just a really incredible, down-to-earth woman who has really great values and really loves kids and wants to create more choice because she trusts parents, and that's really at the crux of school choice. It's, do you want to fund a system? Is American public education a jobs program? Or is this really about educating kids? And then who are you going to trust more than a parent to direct the upbringing and education of a child? And Betsy kind of embodies all of that. And we're just thankful she's going to come and share a lot of what she's learned. Because I agree with you. I think she's gotten a really bad rap. And she's a really special person.
Yeah, I think so too. They're the DeVos family's from Michigan, and I think a lot of people would be surprised at what their claim to fame is. Amway.
Oh boy.
Tiffany, have you had a chance to be on the Preston Scott show out of Tallahassee?
No, I have not.
Okay, you should look into. You would be right up his alley as far as things to talk about and to do for him to talk about your event in Tampa also.
Okay, great. Awesome. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
just the Preston Scott show. It's on, he's out of Panama City and he's primarily in Tallahassee, but he rebroadcast into Panama City.
He has a podcast.
You can get him on iHeartRadio.
Yeah. He's a very convicted man. For sure.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can go on the Moms for Liberty website and click on donate and sign up to donate monthly.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We really, people have talked about, there's a lot of talk. The left does a really great job of serious funding. They've had
yes.
activist
Oh my
funding.
gosh.
But we've really built this from the ground up. Our first year, we funded ourselves on T-shirt sales. It started with $500 and the back of Tina's house selling T-shirts. And we actually sold over $100,000 worth of T-shirts in our first year.
Wow. That's awesome.
And so we really have kind of we call it Inspector Gadgeting our way through. But we are, moms are, where there is a will, there is a way. And if there's a job to be done, moms will find a way to do it. And that's Moms for Liberty.
Now I'm looking at your store on the website. Yeah, you guys got to go on the website and look at the store and click donate.
We'll put the link in the Kellie will on her page because I got kicked off. But and we'll get it shared. Please, if you will, we'll get you the link. I'll get you the. You want to do it from your page, the Facebook. Where are you most prominent at? What platform?
Facebook and Instagram. Are probably our two biggest areas where we're, I'm on Twitter. I run our Twitter account. I try to get a little sassy on Twitter because I think it's good to make people have conversations.
Love it. Yes.
It's about having conversations, right?
Yeah.
What's your Facebook page called?
It's just at Moms for Liberty. At Moms, FORLIBERTY. Yeah. Moms for Liberty. And Instagram is the same, I think.
Let's make a big push to get this tonight's show shared out there.
Yes, share, everybody.
Try and get
watching.
some donations, and I will talk to my company, Tiffany, about the summit.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, you have to, Tina and I both were school board members, and we, had to fund a campaign. So we kind of look at everything we do kind of like that, building relationships and asking people to help to support us. And, I think people before were a little uneasy or not sure about making donations to, different groups. And I know there's a lot that's said about different groups, but we're a great group of moms coming together. And I think we're going to really transcend a lot of this noise and distraction. And I promise you that we're doing really great things, and the summit's going to be an opportunity to empower a ton of moms together. There is something about getting people together, whether it's at a chapter level or at a summit national level, and sharing knowledge and walking away having a shared purpose. It really does help to fuel a lot of change that you can make. So thank you for the support.
There's power in numbers.
You're welcome. So great.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off. Tiffany, thank you. Kellie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love
so
you.
nice to meet you, Kellie. I hope you you start a chapter, we get to work.
Yes. It'd be Marion County, Indiana.
We'll see what we can do here in Escambia County, over here on the far west end of Florida. Todd, thank you. And
thank you, Todd.
Thank you again, Tiffany. And we're going to see everybody next week right here.
Okay.
7 Central.
Have a good
8
weekend,
Eastern.
everybody.
Play Harder Radio.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.